Curious to get your thoughts on former President Donald Trump's economics advisors, which were considering ways to actively stop nations from shifting away from using the dollar in an effort to counter budding moves among key emerging markets to reduce exposure to U.S. currency. So if he does come back into office, I mean, this is something that his economics advisors are already looking at. But is it too little, too late, Jim?
There's the reality, and then there's the story. So what's the storyline from the
Right.
deep state and the mainstream media and all that? There's pardon me. They're saying Trump wants to start the currency wars, and he wants to weaken the dollar, to promote U.S. exports and export related jobs, etc. And so that's the kind of, we're supposed to worry because Trump's going to destroy the dollar. Um, First of all, it's not true. That's not what he's doing. Trump is not trying to start or continue a currency war. He's trying to end the currency war. The currency war has been going on since 2010. That's what my first book was about. But I also said in that book came out in 2011. I said currency wars, we're not always in one, but when we are, they can last 15 or 20 years. So here we are, 2024. I'm not surprised that 13 years after the book came out, we're still in a currency war because I said that's how long they can last, and we are. So it's not a new currency war. It's been the same one that's been going on for as I say, 13 years. So, but what Trump's trying to do is end it. His model is what Ronald Reagan and James Baker did at the Plaza Accord in 1985 and the Louvre Accord in 1987. So, what was going on then? Coming out of the severe recession of 81, 82, 20% interest rates, Paul Volcker, et cetera, we finally got inflation down to about a little over 3% by 1983. Growth was really strong, 16% compound growth between 83 and 86. The dollar hit an all time high. If you look at the Fed broad trade weighted index, the dollar hit an all time high in 1985. Baker and Reagan, Baker was Secretary of the Treasury at the time, just said the dollar was too strong and they didn't want to trash it. What they wanted to do is get together with Japan, Germany, because remember, we're still in the euro. Sorry, this is before the euro. So you still had the Deutschmark and the French franc and sterling and yen and all that. They met at the Plaza Hotel in New York. They had a conference with the finance ministers, and they agreed on new parities. And they said they were going to intervene in markets to cheapen the dollar, but it was a controlled cheapening, and it was by agreement, it was by consent, and they did it. And then by 1987, the dollar had got weak enough that they said, okay, that's good, let's lock it in. And they met at the Louvre in Paris, and they agreed. They set the new parities, and they agreed to keep it there. And for almost 20 years, from 1987 to 2010, I guess a little over 20 years, that was the great moderation. We didn't have high inflation. We didn't have currency wars. The price of gold didn't do a lot really until after 2000 for other reasons. But you did have great currency stability, and that kind of blew up in 2010 after the global financial crisis. So the by the way, the big brain behind this is Robert Lighthizer. Lighthizer was U.S. Trade Representative in the first Trump administration. He was Deputy U.S. Trade Representative in the Reagan administration. He was around at the time of the Plaza and Louvre Accords. And what he's saying is, we're not going to trash the dollar or destroy the dollar. He wants to have another sit down with the G7 members, and in theory, it would include they'd invite China and Russia or other large economic powers, and set new parities and move towards them. And it might involve a slightly cheaper dollar, but it wouldn't be an outright war. It would be moving towards currency stability. Now, here's the twist. You're invited to this meeting, and you can work with the United States to achieve these parities. But if you don't,
Right.
if you're using excess capacity and you're dumping and you're trashing your own currency, then we're going to hit you with tariffs. So your choice is going to be join this currency club modeled on the Plaza Accord, or we're going to slam you hard with tariffs, which Lighthizer did to the Japanese. That's how he saved the U.S. auto industry in the 1980s. Japanese were taking over. They put high tariffs on Japanese cars. So this is not a currency war. He's trying to end a currency war. He's trying to achieve stability um, and do it cooperatively. But if you don't join the club, you're going to get hit with tariffs. So yes, you can see that coming. Say, who are the winners in that? The winners are people who invest in the United States, and workers. The losers are people who are, betting on China, or getting their money out of the United States.